Let's get it on.
Adventure Racing!
It's time for the 2020 year in review for Beetle Adventure Racing. Beetle Adventure Racing is a Nintendo 64 racing game that features long tracks with many shortcuts and secret paths. It's easy to play and hard to master. I felt compelled to make this video due to all of the great records that were set this year. In fact, every record in the game was improved this year. But first, a crash course. Adventure racing is straightforward to play, easy on the hands, with a few techniques to know about. The Police Beetle is the overall fastest car, so it is used for all time attack and bonus circuit records.
Nice wheels!
Automatic versus manual. Every record in the game uses automatic. It is believed that manual has downsides and no real benefit. This simplifies the controls. Hold the gas button to go forward. This game features remappable controls. You'll generally want access to the gas button, the abort button, the shift down or reverse gear button, the camera button, and the handbrake button. You will be holding the gas button for most of the track, so it should be on a comfortable button to hold, maybe where your thumb rests naturally. Abort should probably be moved from L to R, as R is a much more convenient button to press on the N64 controller. Abort is a commonly used button that brings you back onto the main track. Shift down, when pressed in automatic mode, will instantly put you into reverse gear. There are a few techniques that use this, and I recommend keeping it on Z. The camera button changes between third-person view, zoomed-out third-person, and first-person. It is actually advantageous to sometimes switch between these, more on that later. Handbrake is a fast way to lose velocity and is sometimes useful. It can also be used to spin the vehicle for jumps and wall grinds. The regular brake is generally not used, but it does exist. And shift up is never used on automatic mode, so you can assign that to the D-pad or something. Techniques. Faster start. By pressing the abort button the moment the race starts, you don't have to accelerate from 0. You should always do this. Tighter turns. By releasing the gas button, even for a few frames, you can turn more sharply. This is a common technique. Z-turn. By releasing the gas button and changing to reverse gear, you can do very sharp turns. It's called Z-turn because Z is the default button for shift down. Reset warp. There are places where pressing the abort button will be advantageous. You should learn where and when to press abort. First-person view. Using first-person view is often advantageous. The game runs at a higher frame rate in first-person view due to not having to render the Beetle. This higher frame rate results in different physics. Specifically, your car will be less likely to catch air on certain parts of the track. Generally, airtime is bad. First-person view may also reduce the height of certain jumps. There are a few other techniques, but they're more track-specific, and we can talk about them later. Also, if you're interested in picking this game up, well, you may be able to learn parts of the game on emulator. Your runs will not count due to inaccurate physics.
Disqualified!
It is not the same thing as playing on an actual N64. You're welcome to use something like an EverDrive, however.
Time attack!
Alright, that just about wraps up my introduction. Now let's jump into the time attack records. There are 2 categories per track. The first is Best Track Time, or good old vanilla time attack. This is a 3-lap run through a single track. The other is the 100 points category. This enables the time attack bonus boxes cheat option. This places breakable boxes throughout the track that give you points. Runs in this mode must break all of the bonus boxes, getting 100 points before finishing. To unlock the cheat option, you need to break this hidden flower box on Metro Madness during either professional or bonus circuits. There are no fast lap records in this game. Lap 1 features a unique starting section, and Lap 3 features a unique ending section.
Welcome to Coventry Cove!
So here we are, Coventry Cove, the first track in the game. This is also the most popular track, as I think most runners start here. The times it beat going into 2020 was my 4:36.42, and it was beaten by free runner guys. One key difference between our runs was the town. In my old 2019 run, I played it safe in the town on the final lap, opting to take the main road. The faster path is narrower and more difficult, especially when the construction block is down. Free runner guys set a new standard with the 4:36.29, taking the fastest path all 3 laps. FRG knew that 4:35 was within reach. He was soon beaten by Chaotix, amazingly by a 100th of a second. Actually, you may be interested to know that every cent-a-second value is a possible time in this game. Having such a fine-grained timer means that no record will ever be maxed. In late May, I returned to Coventry Cove, and I was able to improve my time and break the 4:36 barrier, getting a 4:35, then lowering it. This was a pretty nice push I did because this run cut off a lot of time. I didn't get any air on that bridge, that's good, you don't want any air on that part. And this turn into the town is always pretty fun. So here's taking the faster path through the town and avoiding that little construction area. There's a wooden block that happens to be sort of in your way, and it's not there on lap 2, but if you're on a good pace, it's going to be in your way on laps 1 and 3, and it's kind of a tight squeeze. Here's another turn that feels kind of important, like that turn and then this turn right here. I think those are some places to focus on, as if you play those sections well, you can save time. The mineshaft can be pretty troll. I did not get any air on lap 1, which is good. Here's a straightaway section heading to the castle. For the lap 1 castle, I opted to go for the castle warp. You should do this on one of the laps. You have to really wedge yourself into that corner. It takes a little bit of experience to not have your car explode. Heading into the town, lap 2. This time, that construction block is not in the way, but I did kind of hit that right wall a little bit. I grabbed the nitro immediately after, which helps me recover, but that was definitely an area that could have been faster. This long section with the nitro boxes heading up to the barn, it's really about moving as little as possible, like minimal steering, you know, very subtle motions. And heading into the mineshaft, lap 2. When you enter the mineshaft, I mean, I like to try to hug that right wall pretty closely. And again, I did not get any air on the second mineshaft. And this pretty easy section heading up to the castle again. Try to cut this fence pretty tight though, right here, that fence to the left. Can always cut it just a little bit tighter, of course. Lap 2 castle, no warp. There's a different nitro box you can get. And the castle will not be visited again because the end of lap 3 actually happens prior to the castle. Alright, lap 3, jumping through towards that construction area. This one was a really good angle. This grass right here, I actually take it a little wide at first, because I notice if I'm on the inside, sometimes I will lose some speed, so I wait a little bit for that dip to pass, and then I go. And yep, on lap 3 right here, on this turn right here, I actually sort of realized that I wasn't steering enough right away, and I actually improvised. I went for a Z-turn to kind of save myself, which worked out. I did get air in the mine shaft right there, but it wasn't that bad. But I believe that cost time. And now for the unique ending section. I always feel like I never get enough practice on this section, but it's played pretty well. There is one point to note right here. It is actually possible to avoid getting any air on that part, believe it or not. And so there are still a few places where there's a noticeable way to save time, and there's always subtle and almost imperceptible ways to save time in this game, just by taking things ever so tighter and playing just that little bit better. By the way, this Coventry Cove run that I said, as recent as it was, it actually happens to be the longest standing current record in all of Beetle adventure racing. And with that, let's move on to the 100 points category for Coventry Cove. The 100 points categories tend to not have as high a volume of submissions, but it is growing in popularity, and the 100 points categories tend to be pretty interesting because you get to see other parts of the track that you normally don't. I improved my record from 2018, and I thought it was kind of safe then, but then when Chaotix was going through a tear through the game, the time fell quite easily. Then later in the year, Yume made a run for the time, and then I went back and was able to get a nice improvement. So here's the run I got for Coventry Cove 100 points. I know that 441's out there, of course. It's hard to say how low it goes overall. It's a pretty difficult... Some parts of it are difficult. I would say lap 1 in particular is pretty difficult. Notice I did not stick to the ground at the bridge there. Unfortunately I got air, so there's a little bit of time to save right there. And then as you enter the town, there's this back alley, this far alley. It's actually pretty fun to get those two boxes without hitting the walls, but then right after that you have to go into this like train tunnel, and it's actually pretty difficult to navigate that smoothly. As we head through the hills, we're heading up to the barn, and the barn section is different because there are boxes in the barn. And you'll see me go up to the barn, get the boxes, but then there's a nitro box to the left that I did not grab, and it's possible to hit it on your way down. Often you actually go right over it. And then here you jump across this island section, and what I believe the biggest mistake was the landing after that. It's possible to land and not bounce. It's not common, like usually you hit the ground, then just because of the type of floor you're hitting there, there's like it's kind of ramping up and you end up bouncing. Bouncing is bad, but yeah, you go up to that secret path on the left there and you get those boxes and a nitro. There's actually a technique called Z-glide that you can kind of pull off out of that, but it's kind of weird and I didn't go for it this time. You enter the castle through the side, and then you have to go break through this, and it's pretty hard to get that 5 with the stained glass window and then still make it to the nitro box. So all in all, lap 1's pretty tough. You swing wide there, you can get the 2 box and the nitro as you're heading back to the town, and then you have 2 laps left to get all of the remaining boxes in the town. There's one in that window right there. And the construction thing is actually down on lap 2 there, as you can see, because lap 1 took longer than normal. So that makes it tricky. And that run through lap 1 and the start of lap 2 cleared a lot of the boxes out. There are still some out there though. So here's the turns leading up to the mine shaft again. Note how on lap 1 I did not take the mine shaft because I had to go across the island. But now we take it. The mine shaft is actually not considered part of the main track, but it's fastest to take it. So you've seen it before, but they put bonus boxes there because it's supposed to be like a secret path. And for the lap 2 castle, it's actually, well, I actually switched to third person there because I'm trying to make sure that my jump isn't too short. And that way I can get the 10 box and then cruise through the castle. At this point, I'm at 95 out of 100 points. The only 5 box remaining is the one landing near the construction zone, so that's here. By the way, when you do this jump, you have to... well, what you should do is you should handbrake before you get air, so your like velocity is lower so you don't hit the ceiling. And like depending on how safe you want to play it, it's like ideally you like barely graze the ceiling, not losing any speed by touching it, you know, but it's often easier to go a little bit slower than that. And we're heading through with all 100 points collected through the mine shaft again, and this ending will be the same as the regular time attack now that I have all 100 points. I would say about this run is that island section with the bounce, and perhaps that very first bridge at the beginning, maybe a few other bits, like the barn nitro not being obtained. Those are kind of the things that stand out. In fact, I thought I might go for 441, except I didn't really know how to do the island section consistently fast. So maybe another time.
Welcome to Mount Mayhem!
Mount Mayhem, the second track in the game. What a beautiful track, with lovely music and a trip through the mountains. If you look at the new records set this year, I was actually the only person to set new records on this track, but that doesn't tell the whole story. If we rewind to around 6 months ago, the leaderboards looked way different. Chaotix had gone on a huge tear, taking all of the best track times other than Mount Mayhem. Chaotix was no joke, and I knew I had to defend my record here. I have a long history with Mount Mayhem, going all the way back to the beginning of this game. In fact, in 2004 I sent a VHS tape to Twin Galaxies to get my ancient 442.18 record verified. I also had an advantage in the form of the ski jump, a very brutal, sharp right turn that allows you to save around 1 second per lap. I was probably the best at it. Also, fellow runner Henix had discovered a new technique called the Z-Glide. It was known for a long time that if you bump into the cave wall and land, your speed would be higher than normal. If you land well in reverse gear, your speed will decay at a slower rate, allowing you to maintain that higher velocity for longer. And so on June 5th, I got this run. This was the first ever sub 430 on Mount Mayhem. It seemed like a kind of impossible goal, but it happened. And after it happened, I felt quite ecstatic. I felt like it was a great run. And as I watch it again, and I've watched it several times, I noticed that there are flaws and that it can of course still go faster, which always seems to be the case. But yeah, I do the intro section basically flawlessly, and then we come up to the first ski jump. Right here, you can see you need this really sharp right turn. I actually kind of grinded against the left side of the rail there as I was going down on the ski jump, which caused my velocity to dip a little bit, which actually kind of makes the ski jump easier. So even though you kind of like nick that wall, it's almost beneficial because it makes your ski jump work. And heading through the waterfall cave, there's actually a mistake here where I nicked that wall. It's actually faster to like hug the right side for that warp. Like the earliest possible warp point is more on the right side. So that was another little flaw right there. Alright, here's the first Z-Glide. This is called the Big Cave. You can see I got up to 236 kilometers per hour, and then I got a low jump here, which is really good because you land on a downslope, and you see that my lowest speed for that section was 220 kilometers per hour. That's actually like a really good section. It is possible to land in that big cave and get even faster Z-Glides. They seem to be rare, but they also exist. Perhaps if someone starts to figure out methods of actually consistently getting ludicrously fast landings there, that the time might be able to continue to drop. Alright, moving up onto the second lap ski jump. I actually stuck to the ground there, so there was no wall hit or anything, and I actually got a really nice turn. On one of the 3 laps, you're going to want to land on that nitro box, and I did it on the second lap. So I think because I stuck to the ground there, then I actually got such a good Z-turn for the ski jump. I think that makes that really fast, and I think that is something that helped. And you can see I do this waterfall warp much more quickly on lap 2 compared to lap 1. So coming through here, heading towards the big cave for the second and final big cave Z glide. I get up to 230, a little bit slower this time, and my jump here was higher, so you can see that I land at a worse spot, and I go all the way down to 209 kilometers per hour. So that was definitely quite a bit slower than how I did it on lap 1. So you can kind of imagine that it's still possible to cut a decent chunk of time off of this. And heading into lap 3.
It's the final lap.
The third and final ski jump. Typically, nerves are going to be rather high if you got 2 good ski jumps. And my turn was a little late. You can see that I kind of rubbed up against that mountain wall, slowing me down, and that's not good. Heading through the mountainy, snowy area. And final warp here. And now heading into the finish area. The finish area on this track is really remarkably unique. You go on this long left turn, and it's really great because, like, if you just hold left, you're gonna go too sharp, and then later in the turn, if you're holding left, you're not going sharp enough. So you have to like kind of balance between keeping the stick not all the way pressed or releasing the gas button so you can get a tighter turn. It does take a bit of practice, and I have practiced just that section alone to improve at it. By the way, Henix also showed this strategy, which skips the waterfall warp and instead opts to do a really difficult, tight, excellent turn through the loop area. It seems to save 0.3 seconds per lap, but I personally find it more difficult than the ski jump. It seems like this track is not done yet. It still has life in it with these new strategies. Maybe someday someone will get 428 or lower. Let's talk about the 100 points category for Mount Mayhem now. I actually don't hold this record, it's held by T. I guess one thing to really point out about this track is the boxes that have been added to the loop section. There are 4 boxes there that you have to get. There's kind of like 2 on the inside and 2 on the outside. You want to do those on separate laps. It's a pretty critical section, I find it pretty tricky. So yeah, my time is slightly off the first place time held by T, which was set pretty recently in November, only revealed in December. Both of our runs are flawed in different ways. My run, like I said, I had trouble with the loop section on both laps and I suffered for it. And here's Yume's run, the current record. The beginning section is the same, there are no bonus boxes during the intro section. I really like this intro section, by the way, this first turn here. It's just like it feels nice to play it well. It's pretty simple, but it's a nice section. But the first difference happens here as you enter like lap 1 proper. You go up this ramp and then you have to crash through the glass, and it's actually pretty tricky to get that jump right. There is 1 ski jump in this run, and right there, that's actually perhaps the biggest flaw of this run, was that the ski jump was not successful. It was aborted because it would have resulted in a car explosion, which would have been slower than aborting. Now, it's not that bad because There is that nitro box there, so like if you do mess it up, you can get back up to top speed pretty quickly. But yeah, that's not good. And then here, taking the inside of the loop, that was pretty good. It's hard to do that section well. It feels like there's almost always time to save on it, but it's just a hard section to do well. It's hard to really explain it. And then this is cool because you go up to the top. There's actually a passage at the top of the big cave. And you get to head up into this whole different section of the track. You're like up really high on the mountain. You get this view of the mountains in the background. It's a cool section. And then after this nitro box, you kind of reconnect to the main track. You have to take a right turn here. Get this 5 box. There's a nitro, then kind of a tight turn there to get around and get back to the beginning of lap 2. Okay, so there's no more like ski jumps as in the difficult right turn, but you actually still just go off it as intended and get to this half pipe area where there are 2 boxes. It's faster to warp after this box, and then your speed is kind of low, which is kind of good because that sets you up for this jump down into the cave here. And then there's a UFO. There's a UFO on Mount Mayhem, hidden. But yeah, you have to go down here to get the boxes. And then this reconnects to where the loop area begins. And this time going to the far side of the loop. This turn right here is pretty hard to get both of those boxes, not hit the wall. It was played very well there. And now, because on the first lap the big cave was actually doing that tall jump to the top, there's only one Z-glide, and this one hit 225 kilometers per hour as a top speed, got a high jump on the bridge, and then got down to 202 kilometers per hour. So I would say that's actually the second biggest mistake, is that Z-glide was not very fast. So yeah, then you come into this other place through this little mini cave, and you have to go up on this big jump, and this is kind of like a notorious 5 box up on the hill. Kind of tricky. But that takes you back into lap 3. And you actually head straight here, get that 5, and then warp down. And this is actually the main road. And get 2 boxes here, that puts you at 92. And then the last 8 points are obtainable through the Ice Lake Waterfall cave area. Yeah, so I guess my best time on this track is flawed. This run is flawed in a different way, and if we combined our strengths, we would have maybe under 5 minutes. I think we both definitely agree that sub 5 minutes is possible. I think improving this run is something that should be gone for. I'm curious to see who can break 5 minutes. I might try for it next year, I'm not really sure. And a little hit there, but it's okay. Coming off at 5:01.71. Not bad, but also always room for improvement.
Welcome to Inferno Isle.
Inferno Isle is the longest track in the game. In fact, way back in the day, the records for Inferno Isle were longer than 6.5 minutes for a 3-lap run. They're a bit shorter now though, but still it's the longest track. Now you might be wondering, where did the time save that happened this year come from? There was a routing innovation by Henix. Henix realized that this section after the town, where we normally simply just followed the road, you could actually drive down the slope and get onto the beach area where the water is, cut through that area, and then get back onto the main road. This was just something that was completely overlooked. I think none of us thought that you could actually just drive down those slopes so efficiently. I got this 5:41.96 run, but I didn't try that hard to get it. It's the current record, but pretty much the other runners have mostly neglected this track in 2020, particularly after the Hennick's beach strategy that saves 1 second per lap. I was the only person who actually put that to good use, and yeah, I just kind of feel that other runners need to improve their times here. It's a pretty fun track to play. I mean, this town area is pretty hard, although the strategy I found for it is not that bad. But I just don't think that this level got played enough this year. It did get played a good amount in 2019. UMAT had the record for this track going into 2020, and it was the only record in the entire game that I did not hold at the start of 2020. But then Chaotix got the record, and then I pushed it lower, then Hennick's found the new thing, and then I pushed it lower again. I think getting under 5 minutes and 40 seconds is definitely possible. I think that it would be a nice goal to shoot for. Whenever I think about this game, I think that Inferno Isle is one of the tracks that I might enjoy playing more. Also, it being so long means there's always like so much time. Like you can refine little bits and always go like, I don't know, there's always so much time to save, it feels like. Although I got pretty good at it. Like I opened the game on emulator and I made sure that I knew the exact warp points to make sure that that was optimized, because there's a number of them, like there's one right here. But yeah, we're heading into lap 2 here. I suppose I'll get into some more specifics of the track. So heading through this jungle area, there's a part where you want to avoid air right here. With experience you can kind of avoid it. And then this bounce right here, there's like a rare bounce that can happen that can save time. It didn't happen for me though. And then here I actually take this upper path and then Z-turn down into the alley. But there are other strategies for that part. Like you don't have to go up there. Like, there are definitely multiple ways to approach that section. And the way I do it feels relatively consistent, but maybe not the fastest. And here's that beach cutting part that Hennick's figured out. And you want to handbrake here, because if you go full speed it's not going to work. And then the velocity you're at when you land there can be pretty interesting. I'll show a clip later that points out how crazy that part can be. You warp on that wall, and then what I do here is I just turn until I'm like, I turn until I feel like I need to Z-turn, and then I Z-turn. And these narrow paths through the volcano feel pretty fun to play. You Z-turn out of it, and then this part is pretty interesting. It's one of the, I don't know, it's nice curvy, you have to really like, I don't know, it's just a good part. There's a nitro box to the right there. I don't know if it's worth getting. I actually opted to skip it, but it could be faster, I'm not actually sure. So for this part you want to like cut through really tight and then hopefully not get too much air off that little ramp. And heading into lap 3. I'm back in the jungle again. Yeah, when I was at like 544, I felt like 542 or 541 might be possible, but I wasn't able to push it that low. And then when that 1 second per lap time saver was found, I think I pushed my time down a little less than 3 seconds. So I feel like, I don't know, definitely sub 540 is out there eventually. This part is not that hard to do, but I suppose like the ending part where you have to get back onto the main road, it's a little bit, it's a bit tricky. Sometimes you're catching air and you want to make sure that that part's smooth. I go into third person on that section just to be able to kind of see my vehicle in relation to the cliff edge. And as we're exiting the volcano, there's one more extra warp for the ending section right here. It's actually possible to warp a little bit earlier, and the fog in this section doesn't spawn if you get the best possible warp. So I did not get the best possible warp there. And that's a 541.96 current record. By the way, earlier in the year this happened to me. I was jumping into that volcano area and the landing was absurd. The lowest speed was 157 kilometers per hour on that landing. I happened to land like kind of on the wall almost, but whatever happened, it was incredibly fast, and if someone could do that all 3 laps, it would be a huge speed boost. Inferno Isle 100 points saw the record change hands numerous times. Chaotix beat the record, then I took it back. Umeti beat my time, Umeti improved it significantly, and then I improved that time significantly. There were significant routing improvements surrounding the pirate ship area. What we used to do is warp immediately after getting the 5 box at the pirate ship area. Then I kind of realized that, wait a minute, if you just kind of take the main path, that could actually save time. Another thing too is that to get to the pirate area in the first place, you have to fail the jump across this broken bridge and get down to the cave below. This is kind of slow, and Henix realized that not only could you get down there faster, but there was this bush that you can actually drive through, and that was a significantly faster way to get down there. Here's the 602.86. You'll see at the beginning there are a few boxes on the beach I have to get. It's just a very slight deviation from what you normally do. And then as you come into this area, there's a box kind of in the bushes here. You can avoid getting air off of it if you're pretty far to the left and you're turning left. And then you come into the Jurassic Park inspired section. And heading into the town, there's some bushes here. You have to get these boxes in the bushes and do an almost kind of blind turn into this area. Getting the 5 box, and then you're going so fast it's very crazy, you're kind of bouncing off the buildings. There's this kind of far box there, and then there's this kind of like dock over to the left there. You're gonna have to go on that on one of the laps. I chose to do on that too, because the dock section is not that hard, and I decided to do the easy stuff on later laps. Coming into the volcano. And there's a 2 box here. There's a 5 here, then a 2. The 2 box is pretty hard to get. I've also wondered about not warping at the 2 box and instead following the path kind of as intended there. But it's a really kind of out of control section. And then you have to take a left turn here, and it's almost like a zigzag getting the 10 box. You could warp at the 10 box if you wanted to, but I chose not to because I think you can save time by just driving it. Warp at that 5 box. And here's this jump. And the nitro to the side that I do not get. I really wonder about that, like... I kind of think it might be faster to get that nitro. Anyway, here's the pirate ship section. So here's the bush you can go through. I deflect off that railing. And then you're kind of almost out of control at this part, and luckily I didn't lose too much speed here. Getting to the nitro and then jumping onwards to lap 2. That section was played pretty well. especially the kind of railing deflect, which helped me. Alright, so now we're in this jungle area. This is what you normally do on all 3 laps for regular time attack, except instead of warping here, you actually drive it. And I'm not super familiar with this section, and I did catch a little bit of air there. It's not great. I choose to abort there to reset my speed really low so I can perform that turn and get the box. And then you actually have to drive through a little bit of the town proper to get that too. Now we're coming up on the dock again, and then, because I already did some of the hard stuff on lap 1, I decided to do the dock here. See, I'm already up to 90 points. At this island, you warp back, and then you can get here, 95 points. I'm only missing 1 box in the entire level now. The single box that I'm missing is the castle area, which is near the pirate ship. So this is all pretty standard. But yeah, this is a fun section to play. I think I might have mentioned that in the regular Inferno Isle time attack commentary. It's just nice to do these turns. And once again, I skipped the nitro. And I jump over the broken bridge. And here's the castle section, and honestly, I think I could have practiced this more. I ended up getting some rotation on the vehicle there because I wanted to slow down a little bit. And I hit handbrake, but handbrake tends to give you a lot of rotational speed. So it was just kind of awkward what happened there. It wasn't that slow, but like you can definitely imagine it being done more quickly. Heading through the swamp again. And warp. And now the 3rd town. And that one wasn't that great. It's definitely possible to do that section faster. And you know, the final time on this track, 6:02.86, it's pretty close to sub 6 minutes. And I think sub 6 minutes is a good goal for this. This is the last track that's longer than 6 minutes, so it'd be nice. And jumping into the volcano. Still using 3rd person there for kind of visibility and spatial awareness. A little bit of weaving there, my turn wasn't so great. And the warp at the end. That warp was actually kind of too early and didn't really put me in the right spot. So yeah, there's some flaws throughout this, but it was a nice improvement. And that's the 100 points record. This track still might hold some secrets. Here's a few clips from Henix showing some interesting ideas.
Welcome to Sunset Sands.
Sunset Sands. My 4:57.24 was the record going into this year. That was actually the first sub 5 run, and it was thanks to Nathan Board's discovery of the double warp strategy at the temple. Chaotix got the first 4:56. Free runner guys beat it by a slim margin. Chaotix fired back with a lower 4:56. And then we saw a world record from a Math Monkey. A Math Monkey actually used to be the champion of the game some years ago. It was cool to see Math get this record. Meanwhile, I was playing in secret for 4:55, and I did manage to achieve it. The run was kind of amazing. I felt like I got quite lucky. I got a low 455, which I thought was really amazing. I didn't think anyone would beat my time, but then Henix surprised everyone with what was the biggest skip of the year. In fact, if you look at the chart for time cut per track in 2020, you can see that Sunset Sands was the biggest time cut out of the entire game. So what happened? How did Henix do it? One of the most amazing looking stunts in all of Beetle adventure racing. Making it across that gap by grinding up the pyramid like that, and actually having the lap count. It actually saves your progress. This is similar to something that I tried to do a long time ago with a different method, but it didn't count my lap. So what's going on with the checkpoints, and how does it determine track progress? Well, this seems like a great moment to introduce NoClip.website, a digital museum of video game levels. Roland Rock ported the Beetle Adventure Racing maps onto this website, and was also able to dig into the game's code a little bit and start reverse engineering how it works. Alright, so for this skip, the main thing to know is that there is this large green progress correction zone. It's a large axis-aligned bounding box, and the way it works is, for this box in particular, if the track progress is between this point here and this point right here, then this box is active, and if the car touches this box while it's active, it'll actually set your progress to be this point. So all you have to really do is get the game to think that you're past this point here, and then make your way to this green box. In order to make it think your car is past this point, you're going to need to trick the game into thinking you've rounded this corner, and that's pretty tricky. There's these overlapping bounding boxes here that reset your progress, and there's a really complex sort of chain of jumps of track progress that happens. Effectively what we know is you really want to just kind of touch the edge of these bounding boxes and grind up this pyramid and then get to the green box. If you can achieve this, then it'll actually count your track progress. This will end up skipping this huge chunk of the track, which saves 15 to 20 seconds. So far, only Henix has been able to pull this off, and only on one of the laps, even though you do this section 3 times. So in theory, you could do it on all 3 laps and save maybe a minute, but I don't know if that'll ever happen. It's just so insane. Something rather amazing is that Henix was able to figure this out without using an emulator, without using these special viewing tools, and without having the game's source code. Henix was able to figure this out using 2-player mode. In 2-player mode, if a player starts to fall far behind, they have a kind of warning before they get disqualified. You'll get disqualified if you're 1 minute behind the other player. 1 minute in track progress. And so by using that sort of counter, you can kind of get an idea of the track progress, and then from there you can kind of see like, oh, this jump made it further, perhaps this is a special way I need to jump to hit the checkpoint planes in the right way to get the track progress to increase. Pretty incredible, especially considering you need to do this half rotation there, and then you need to land where the floor meets the wall and then get a favorable physics interaction to actually make it over here. In this run, Henix actually didn't even land on the other side and simply fell into the out-of-bounds water, but that was enough to reach the green progress reset zone, and so the run begins. I can only imagine what the nerves feel like at this point, because I don't know how frequently you get this to actually work. Like, I personally haven't even gotten over there once yet. Actually, to be more clear, I did make it over there once, but I didn't hit the checkpoint planes in the right way at the pyramid, so my track progress was void and did not count. This jump at the end of the lap is kind of scary, like it can sometimes be low or go wrong. You'll also notice that Henix uses a lot more third-person view than I do, and that's actually completely valid, because For large portions of the track, you actually don't need first person. There are just a few places where it can be beneficial to have it. I think I just simply got used to first person and I kind of left it on. But playing portions of the track in third person is not too bad. It just kind of depends on what kind of surfaces you're traveling over. Henix previously had a 441, which I guess the largest mistake of that run was on the end of lap jump, having kind of like a really slow landing. This run fixed that mistake. I actually was really surprised to see this run because I didn't think anyone would beat the 441, but then Henix did it again. It makes you wonder, how low can the time go with a single, we'll call it the pyramid jump. How low can the time go with that pyramid jump to skip the 15 to 20 seconds? Like maybe 435? And then if you could do it on multiple laps, that's another 15 to 20 seconds each. Henix actually has a video of a theory run that does the pyramid jump on all 3 laps. Obviously it wasn't played in one sitting. It was kind of like all the best moments spliced together. And it was able to break the 4-minute barrier, which is pretty insane. That would make it faster than Mount Mayhem, faster than Coventry Cove. It would really be insane. I mean, I don't even know if someone's gonna be able to do the pyramid jump twice in a single run, let alone 3 times. I'm not really sure if it'll happen. Anyway, finishing up this lap 3. I believe one more nitro remains in this tunnel. One thing about the nitros in this tunnel too is that you have to kind of be careful about how you steer. If you oversteer, you risk starting to slide out. It's kind of like a feature of the nitro boxes. If you turn too sharply, it's gonna really give you problems. So you have to make sure you don't oversteer. But yeah, going up here and heading to the end of the track. Very amazing, and also set on the PAL version of the game, the only record set on PAL. Will anyone ever do multiple pyramid jumps in a single run? Who will be the first person to complete a run with a pyramid jump other than Henix? Time will tell. Let's now talk about Sunset Sands 100 points. I think this stage is quite brutal, very difficult. Chaotix got the record this year, then Umate got the record. Let's watch Umate's run and see what it's all about. Alright, so to start things off in Sunset Sands 100 points, coming up there is a ramp to the right side. There's a 10 box at the top of it, kind of in the air you have to get. And that landing can be hard to do. Yume kind of hit the wall, so that could have been faster. And jumping across onto the main part of the track. Kind of heading off towards this ditch, but there's actually 2 boxes in the ditch, and you have to get them, and they're hard to get. It's hard to get those quickly. And then as you head up towards the temple area, there's a lever you have to push. It's kind of in your way, and if you push it, a ramp somewhere else raises up. And that ramp is used to get to another part of the track. Then you kind of spiral down this section and get this 2 box. Then sharp left turn, get these 2 boxes, then warp back to the track. And then here in the lava room, here is where the ramp raised, so you can jump. There's a few boxes in the air to get. And then a very unique section of the track where you actually want to come to a complete stop. Good things come to those who wait, it says on the sign. It's a hint, and the platform that you're standing on is actually an elevator, which takes you down into this underground Anubis chamber. And and a series of horrible 90-degree turns that was actually played rather excellently. It's very hard to do that quickly. And then coming up on this section, there's a turn to a ramp with a box on it. Then a 90-degree turn. And then this starts to get you back onto the main track. The triple bump section. And then there's a split path coming up here. And you have to go different ways on 2 of the laps. 10 box in the air, that can be kind of troll. Then a 5 box and a nitro, leading you into lap 2. If you've missed some of the ditch boxes, you can try to get them again here. And now that that ramp was raised and the Anubis section was completed, you can just do the standard double warp strategy right here. Getting these nitro boxes and navigating this section is a little bit harder with the ramp raised. And heading towards the town. This turn into the town I think is pretty hard. Right here, and then warp. Then it puts you kind of back on the main track. Heading up through to the next area. So on one of the laps you actually need to take the main path here. That's because there's a 5 box almost on the ceiling of the next room, and you can get to it by jumping off of this ramp. Then this leads up to the triple bump section. And that was a really amazing triple bump section. I think all 3 of the jumps were really low. So that was fast. Then there's a series of 2 boxes that are right up against the railing here on a curve. Pretty difficult, and as you can see there, UMT kind of grinded up against the railing, which was a little bit slow, but that is a hard section. Now you might be wondering if the pyramid jump could be added to this run, and it is theoretically possible to do the pyramid jump in this run, but you would need to kind of combine some of the boxes onto the same lap, and it would require taking a very different route, and it would not save as much time as the pyramid jump saves on regular time attack. But it is possible, and it is out there. Alright, final boxes of this section. Pretty tricky. You have nitro, it's a sharp turn, and then there's boxes up against the railing. You can see there was some mistakes there. First of all, hitting the railing, and then secondly, not getting that last nitro box. So that was a section that could be improved. You drive up here and get the final boxes of this section. This is 100 points, and all that is left is to reach the finish, which is coming up shortly. Like I said, I think this track is very brutal, and despite the mistakes in this run, it's still a very hard time to beat. There have also been a few innovations on the route. There's this pretty difficult strategy where you can actually fall and land directly on that 2 box, spiraling down the temple. And then here's another strategy, the skid cancel from Nathan is Bored, to stop instantaneously almost for that elevator platform that takes you underground. There's no doubt that seconds can fall off this record, but the question is who's going to implement these more difficult strategies?
Welcome to Metro Madness.
Metro Madness saw a healthy amount of activity. In fact, the record changed hands 6 times this year. We also saw some pretty amazing innovation from Henix in the form of the parkade jump strategy. By turning and using the handbrake as you go off a ramp, you can give yourself angular momentum. The physics in this game act rather strangely when you are facing odd directions while hitting a wall, and in this case it can be exploited to grind up the wall and actually make it into the parkade. From here you can hit a checkpoint plane and head to the parkade exit, all in all saving maybe 4 seconds. This is a difficult strategy, and it's not uncommon to play for an hour straight and not get a single successful parkade jump. November 2nd, 2020, I got this run. I had been playing Metro Madness for long hours. I considered it kind of meditative, sort of in a trance just playing the track itself, waiting for the parkade jump to actually work. And the entire time I felt like I was improving at the fundamentals of the track itself. So kind of a slight right turn to get into the city area. Going up here, sometimes you get a low jump here. This jump, sometimes you land on the really steep part of the downslope and your speed temporarily goes up to 217 kilometers per hour. It did not happen in this run. You warp at the barrier, head through this kind of curvy section heading over towards the storm drain section. I consider this right turn to be kind of tricky to do well. And then this little part as you exit the sewer is kind of tricky. Sometimes you get a low jump exiting the sewer, and it can help to get your speed up to around 200 kilometers per hour on these 90-degree turns. Here's the first opportunity to do the parkade jump, but I decided to go for it on lap 2. You can do it on any lap, although there's kind of diminishing returns. And the parkade jump on lap 3 is a little bit different because you actually end up spawning in the ending area. So heading up to this nitro. And I like to use a Z-turn on this turn right here. I've noticed other players prefer to just release gas and do a regular turn, but I found the Z-turn more comfortable. Here's a tight squeeze. It's intentional that you can go over here, like the developers intended this path. But when you're nervous, especially after you get the parkade jump, that part is actually pretty tense. So there's a warp here. I kind of found the best spot to do it. And there's a nitro box here, and then there's actually an opportunity to get a Z-glide if you get a low jump there. It did not happen in this run. Over to the barrier again. And the winding path to the storm drain. Lap 2. My goal was around 238, I think, landing in the storm drain area right there. It's kind of like a target time. And then I got a low jump here, so that's good. And notice my speed does crack 200 barely on that first turn. And then here's the parkade jump. And mine went kind of high. And then when I landed, I was kind of wedged at the wall. So I had to spend a lot of time waiting for my car to land. And once I landed, I didn't have much speed. However, it was still a successful parkade jump, and my heart started pounding extremely hard. I even made a little blunder here where I turned too sharply and bounced off that wall, so that was not good. But yeah, I was incredibly nervous, really hoping I could just get through that little crack, like get through this section. It's really nerve-wracking. And from here I just had to rely on all the experience that I had gained from grinding this track. But keeping my heart under control was not easy. I actually worry, like, is someone gonna get 2 parkade jumps in a single run and then die of a heart attack? Like, maybe. Like, I thought about getting a heart rate monitor so you could, like, see what my actual heart rate was during this. But I ended up not doing that. Alright, the sewer. It is a place where you can choke, like this part right here in particular. But this actually went quite well. And the 90-degree turns again. And another parquet jump opportunity here, but I only went for it once. It happens so rarely that it's kind of like the pyramid jump. It's hard to imagine someone doing it twice. For lap 3, you actually want to go a little bit right here, get that nitro, and then cruise to the finish. This run finished at 5:06, but I feel like with a good parquet jump, something like 5:04 seems to be maybe the human max. Maybe? Is 5:04 the best possible time? I'm not really sure, but like, I could see a 5:04 run with a really fast parquet jump and everything else being really good. So it makes me think that maybe 5:04 is as good as it gets for humans. Henix has another theory video on this track with 3 parquet jumps getting under 5 minutes. By the way, Henix also has this clip. I call this the back alley strategy. So far, no one has been brave enough to implement this. It's just a series of really tight, difficult turns that you can do right after you get the parquet jump. And I don't know. It's just very difficult, so I didn't go for it, but it exists. Metro Madness 100 points is a really cool and varied level with a lot of interesting sections to it. We saw the record change hands between Chaotix, a Math Monkey, Chaotix again, but I think what really needs to be talked about is this run from Yume T. This is my favorite run from Yume. Alright, here we go. Metro Madness 100 points starts off similarly to regular time attack on Metro Madness, where you want to take this shortcut through the barriers, and you want to land on the grass. There was a little mistake here where Yume T caught a little bit of air, so that part could have been a little bit faster. And then heading into the city, you need to make a kind of sharp right and left to get these boxes at this gas station area. Breaking the nitro, you can see Yume almost fishing for the Z-glide because the speed drops in the air, but didn't get the low jump. Then you crash through the theater, kind of handbrake there, then warp. And then you have to take a turn towards this fountain and then turn around the fountain and make it into the casino, and that turn is pretty tricky as well. Heading into the storm drain, there's another barrier in here that you can sneak behind, and you have to because there are boxes to get. Kind of almost a blind jump into this burning building because you can't see because of the wooden planks, but then curving and landing with 125 kilometers per hour minimum speed. That's pretty fast for that section. Also grabbing the 10 on the ledge. And coming up here and doing this section almost as normal, except there are some boxes to grab. And then you actually enter the parkade as intended. Level 1, level 2, and then at level 3 you have to jump into this warehouse, and this jump's really finicky. You may kind of nicked the ceiling a little bit, which lowered the speed a small amount. It's still a really good pace though. Two boxes over here. And then there's actually a kind of a deviation where you go to the left. You get one box there, but then there's an entrance to the train station through this building here. You crash through, and then this turn is pretty... I mean, you have to turn pretty far, and there's also boxes during the turn. It's very easy to just suddenly lose your run right there. And then you speed along the train tracks. Another nitro box to get. Then a 5 box, and this reconnects to where the fountain is. And instead of swerving around the fountain, this time you drive up it. and enter the hotel. So driving through the hotel, getting the box there, and this takes you back to the storm drain. Nice maneuvering through the sewer, and then the 90-degree turns. Now, if you were crazy, you could go for the parkade jump here, but the increased level of difficulty for the track, considering everything you have to do, like let's think back. The gas station turns, the theater, then swerving around the fountain, the casino, the burning building, the construction area, then also the parkade and the jump into the warehouse. Then the train station as well, so like all of that. And then a parkade jump. I mean, maybe someday someone will do it. This run is already so refined that maybe it's worth thinking about going for the parkade jump now. But, just very difficult. This is already a very difficult track. So this time on this section, you just kind of do it as normal and warp at the stairs. But as you head up here, you want to take a left turn to clean up some of the boxes that are left over. You jump down here, then there's a sharp left. Up the stairs, Roman Palace, and you turn and there's a 5 box in the air, and then you come through that curved section at a much higher velocity than you normally do, because normally you'd warp to this point. And that's almost all of the boxes, but the remaining ones are maybe some of the most nerve-wracking boxes. Because if you've gotten this far, you're pretty much almost done, and you really want to finish your run, but the last boxes are... like, there's a lot of potential to mess it up and then just suddenly throw your run away right at the end. So cruising through this section, then you want to swing kind of wide to the right, and then here is a critical moment where there's 2 boxes, and both boxes were collected, along with the nitro. "5 minutes, 41 seconds, and 75 centiseconds. It is a great time, beating the previous record by seconds. It's a very strong run, with only minor mistakes."
Welcome to Wicked Woods.
Wicked Woods is the shortest yet perhaps most brutal track of all. It's seriously unforgiving. It might be one of the most hype tracks due to this. The feeling of being on a fast run here is exhilarating. Earlier in the year, Chaotix knocked down my 316 with the lower 316. In July, I started going for lower, and kind of realized some riskier but faster strategies that I could employ. Finally in September I got a new record, but after watching it I realized that some of the mistakes I made were pretty heavy and there was still so much time to save. Then later that very day, I got this run. This is a 1.5 second improvement over the record I had set earlier that day. I'm kind of thinking this might be my best time in Beetle adventure racing. It was really an incredible run. So first you have to launch yourself up this cliff. That was a pretty average jump, and I crossed the bridge around 12 seconds. Heading to the S turns at the pumpkin area. These are very difficult turns. I'd consider them around as difficult as the ski jump on Mount Mayhem. Here you want to turn to the right, but not too soon. If you go too soon, you will lose all your speed. And here we head to the cathedral. Very graceful little left turn there, and then hopefully you don't bump your head on the ceiling, and hopefully you don't hit any walls. You need to make sure your angle's good. You jump across this bridge to the town, avoid the trees, then go across the town section. This is where the track becomes a little bit more relaxed. Crossing this bridge, then there's this kind of long dirt road. This right turn here, you want to release gas a short amount of time to make it a little bit tighter. Heading into the Dragon Cave. There's a warp here that you want to do. And then this part is really inconsistent. First that jump, and then secondly I try to do a risky strategy where I go across the grass there. Oftentimes you'll catch air on that jump, and things will go really wrong, and you don't want that to happen. So S-turn lap 2, I do it even better that time. Then this turn, and heading towards the cathedral again. And the cathedral jump was really good. And the bridge into the town. All good, everything really good. And at this point I actually remember laughing. I remember laughing because of the thrill, or the exhilaration. Like, you might not think it's that special to get here on this pace, but it is. It's really... I just started laughing because I was so excited. I was just enjoying the moment. Alright, one more section of very high odds of failure, and I actually get a really great jump there. And then once again I get across that grass successfully. I am a little bit wide, and that definitely could have been a jump further to the right. Final S-turn section. It comes across pretty well. And then this jump. And now there's really only like 3 parts left. The cathedral jump, lap 3, which is right here. And this jump was pretty good. Then this jump, also really good. And one final thing is the fence hop at the end. I need to hop the fence to get to the finish sooner, and I do. And I couldn't believe it. A full 1.5 second cut. Oh, I wish I could like convey how it feels. Unfortunately, my commentary will never convey the feeling of this run. I don't think. It's unfortunate, but it really might be my best time. It might be. Time will tell. We'll see what stands at the end of 2021 and beyond. Now it's time to talk about the final track record, Wicked Woods 100 points, also featuring this beautiful art from Nathan Is Bored. This is a really hard track, and while we did cut over 10 seconds off this track this year, there's definitely still further to go. We did see a world record from Vinalker this year on this track. Usually Vinalker is experimenting with this game on emulator and doing all sorts of interesting things, so it was cool to see a world record time also set by Vinalker. Vinalker also found the mansion warp strategy, where after the 10 box you warp back to the main track. That saved significant time. A Math Monkey beat the record the next day though, and then Chaotix brought it down, and then I was pushing it for lower. The frustrating thing is though that this could go down to 335. In fact, I think the record should be around 335. We just haven't been able to get it yet. Yume is going for it, and even 334 might be on the table eventually.
Welcome to Wicked Woods.
Alright, so here we go. The final time attack record that I'm going to show in this video. You don't need to go up the ledge at the start here, because there are other boxes to get, in particular this one in the tree. You have to slow down to around 140 kilometers per hour and get that 10 box in the tree. It can cause some resets, it's not guaranteed. Then there's a pretty cool section here. Usually we skip this section, but in 100 points we need to drive through it. It's actually a pretty fun section to play well. Just some winding turns leading up to the cathedral. That tree branch at the road can sometimes fling the car, but anyway, you also have to jump to the higher point of the cathedral using that ramp, and getting that 10 box is very difficult. It's hard to get it. You're often out of control when you get to the top of the cathedral. In the town you have to go down into the sewer to grab a few boxes. And then there's another place you want to go over here, this ramp, and a 10 box up in the sky. Then when you land, you're heading off into some unknown territory where there is a house, and in the house there's a 10 box. I went pretty slow here, it's definitely possible to go quite a bit faster to get that box. You warp after getting the box and end up at the Dragon Cave again. And then, yep, getting up here, some boxes here. I played it safe, I didn't cut across the grass in this run, but you could save time by cutting across the grass. Now we're at that pumpkin area and we have to do the S-turns. Oof, I bumped into the wall. Not great. Definitely not great. It's another reason I think this record needs to be improved. Okay, these boxes are kind of hard to get, especially the first two. Sometimes you get them on separate laps. And then this 5 box here, I actually missed it on that lap, which is kind of bad because I had to slow down a little bit trying to get it, and I did not get it. And then you drive across the town like normal. Once you pass this bridge up here though, you actually want to visit that house area again, and you can access it through this road. And there's sort of like this prison or torture chamber or something down here. And there's 5 boxes here you have to get. Then back to the Dragon Cave again. And another warp. And at this point, the only box I'm missing is the 5 at the cathedral. And once again I played safe here, not cutting across the grass. I started playing safe on this track when I was really having trouble finishing. It just started to feel so unlikely to actually finish fast runs. So I don't know, I sort of compromised, and that's why this record doesn't feel that strong to me. 5 box coming up. And I do obtain it. And the race is almost done. We're in lap 3, heading into the town. I actually swerved to the right of that tree, which is a bit unusual. I just happened to be pretty far on the inside. And the fence jump was successful, finishing with 3:37.52. Soon to be beaten, I think. So that just about wraps up the track records for Beetle Adventure Racing in 2020. There was a lot of advancements, a lot of innovation, and a lot of optimization. I was surprised by how much we did this year, and it's really been what inspired me to make this video in the first place. Across these 12 track records, we have collectively cut over 1 minute off the combined time. The biggest winner being Sunset Sands, thanks Henix, but also the innovation on Inferno Isle, and just playing a lot better on Wicked Woods 100 points helped a lot. As for the top 5 longest standing current track records, my Coventry Cove run currently sits at the top, which somewhat surprises me. I suspect some of my other times might stand the test of time longer, but we shall see. By the way, in the Beetle Adventure Racing Discord, we have a bot called the GroovyBot that automatically posts point rankings. You can get up to 100 points per level, 100 if you have the current world record, and it rewards players for submitting even if they're not the best.
Buckle up and hit the bonus circuit, baby!
And let us not forget the bonus circuit records that were set this year. I had the record going into the year, but Chaotix beat it with a 30-minute, 15-second run, and then later in the year I got the first ever sub-30 run. I won't show the entire run, but I will discuss certain parts of it. But first, what is Bonus Circuit? Bonus Circuit is a race through all 6 tracks in the game. The earlier circuits, Novice, Advanced, and Professional, do not cover all 6 tracks, so we prefer to race Bonus Circuit. It is also a race against 7 CPU-controlled Beetles. These CPUs rubber band rather horrifically. This game is very guilty of rubber banding. It doesn't matter too much because you can use the police Beetle siren to pull them over, and at the start of each race, you use the siren to blast ahead. Later in the race, when they are rubber banding to catch up behind you, you can use the siren again to keep them behind you. As such, the other beetles aren't of too much consequence. However, there are two things to consider. One is that due to having to render 7 other beetles, and also their positions and their AI decisions or whatever, the frame rate for the game is definitely lower in bonus circuit, and this has ramifications on some strategies because you're more likely to get air on certain parts, and this can be detrimental and you have to be aware of it. The other thing to consider is that it may be possible to use getting rear-ended as a way of gaining speed. I have seen a clip from Henix where getting rear-ended turned into a Z-glide that was very fast. No one has currently implemented this in a bonus circuit run before, but it may be a potential strategy for the future. My Coventry Cove run in this bonus circuit was a little bit bumpy, so it finished at a high 438, which is okay. It could be a bit faster though. In Mount Mayhem, I did fail the first ski jump, but the first failure is not too bad because you have the nitro box right after you abort. My first big cave had a Z-glide of 230 kilometers per hour, and after the bridge section I did get a low jump, which does help my time a bit. The second attempt at the ski jump succeeded, which was good, and my second big cave I got a top speed of 225 kilometers per hour, maybe a little bit below average. The final ski jump was a success, and I ended up finishing off this run with a 433. That's really not that bad for bonus circuit. The town section on Inferno Isle is always a pretty bumpy experience, but you know, I managed to get through it. I would of course implement the beach strategy here on all 3 laps because it's basically a free 3-second time saver. All things considered, I didn't really do that many runs of bonus circuit. I was very much carried by my time attack fundamentals. I found the jungle section kind of tricky though. I ended up getting air and had to kind of swerve and correct my path. Definitely lost some time there. So this Inferno Isle ended up being pretty good. It's kind of funny because a year ago, this time would have beaten the time attack world record, but thanks to new strategies, it's really not that impressive anymore. On Sunset Sands, you might be wondering about the pyramid jump. I of course don't go for it in this run as I've never succeeded at it, but if someone could finish a good bonus circuit run with the pyramid jump, that would be really hard to beat. Just playing through this track normally though, it's a pretty smooth track and I find it pretty easy overall for bonus circuit. You do have to worry about air on this section though due to the worse frame rate. It's something to be aware of. Probably the most nerve-wracking part of Sunset Sands in bonus circuit would be this end of lap jump, which can sometimes go very wrong. On lap 2 I actually got a lot of air there because I was trying to play safe. The lower jump is better, but you risk not making it across the gap. So another pretty average time. Most of my times in this bonus circuit run were pretty average overall. My opinion of Metro Madness in bonus circuit is that it might be the single easiest track of all of them, but you do have to watch out for these barriers, because like, you really want to squeeze through there. But yeah, this track is really so smooth overall. Usually you're not really making mistakes, more so worried about Wicked Woods coming up later. The Storm Drain exit is definitely a place that you want to be consistently good at though. You don't want to lose time there. At the start of lap 2 and 3, you want to sneak through these barriers. Make sure you don't hit them. But other than that, this track's really not that bad. The parkade jump is not used and it's really not worth it in bonus circuit. The pyramid jump on Sunset Sands saves way more time. The parkade jump is just a few seconds and you really don't need it. Alright, so the real problem track is Wicked Woods. At the start of Wicked Woods, you have to get up that cliff, and it's pretty much a coin flip. Like, you might just not get air. In this run, I actually did a ridiculous barrel roll. It happens pretty rarely. Unfortunately, it is slow, and it cost me like over a second. but then I was able to make it through the S-turns at the pumpkin area pretty well, so I was off to a good start. For me, the cathedral jump is another part that really kind of freaks me out, and here I was pretty shaky. And after the Dragon Warp, these jumps at the end of the lap are really frustrating because they can sometimes completely fail. It's really annoying.
Lap 2.
And another pretty good section at the pumpkins. It's pretty hard to do it that fast. My good fortune would come to an end though, and I mess up the second lap cathedral, so that was pretty disappointing. I had to abort out of it. Definitely lost quite a bit of time. The end of lap stuff kind of trolled me as well, so I lost more time here.
It's the final lap.
And then the final pumpkin section was rough and not very fast at all. I did finish this run off with the fence hop, so there's that at least. Yeah, I mean, it'd be possible to cut like 10 seconds off of Wicked Woods alone. It's just a hard track and a lot can go wrong, but I was still happy to get the first sub 30 run of bonus circuit.
Way to go! You're the champion!
We're not done yet though. Bonus circuit max points. That's right, getting all 100 points on all 6 courses. 600 points in a single circuit. Nathan got the record, and Nathan's not very pleased with this run, but I think we can forgive this run though, because it's such a ridiculously hard category where oftentimes you have to backtrack because you missed a box. Very frustrating. I decided to make a montage of this showing every box that you have to collect. So sit back and enjoy this. It just shows you how much you have to do to finish this category. There's some minor backtracking here at the castle. Alright, so that's Coventry Cove. I personally found it very frustrating to sit there resetting Coventry Cove, trying to get the boxes in the town, in the train tunnel, etc. without making huge mistakes. I think something that's kind of required for all of this is kind of lowered expectations, because, I don't know, if you're like me and you're grinding time attack runs and you really care about optimization, and then suddenly you're thrust into this thing where you have to get all these boxes very precisely, and if you miss one, it's like a huge time loss, and the run's really long, so you lose a ton of progress if you want to start over. It's just really rough. I think it has its own charm though. It's pretty interesting to see, I don't know, like all the different places you have to go on all these tracks, and you have to do it all in one sitting. It's kind of like a pretty serious, intense challenge. God, I really do love the town entrance on Inferno Isle. Just like swerving over into that building, and then you have to like launch yourself down the back alley. It is pretty crazy, like it's intense. Yeah, this 10 box in the volcano, it's hard to get it quickly. I love how out of control some of these clips look, like you're just like flinging yourself at the box, praying and hoping that you're gonna hit it. Oh yeah, Nathan's Sunset Sands was actually, I think it was really impressive because it was like a 5:43, I believe, and that's actually like, that's a pretty decent time for Sunset Sands 100 points, and to do it right in the middle of a bonus circuit run, I was like pretty impressed. Yeah, the 2 boxes in the ditch are ridiculous. Yeah, those 2 boxes leading into the nitro, that was really well played. The first major backtrack happened here. Missing one of the boxes in the theater, had to backtrack for it, which cost quite a bit of time. Made a mistake in the train station, kinda got stuck there for a while. Nathan managed to get the 10 on the ledge on the final lap. It was causing problems earlier. I think the pace to Wicked Woods wasn't even that bad, it's just what happened next was unfortunate. You see, the tree box caused over a minute of time loss, having to backtrack over and over to get it. It was the worst part of this run, unfortunately. The tree box was finally obtained on lap 2, but it came at a heavy price. And then it's like the cathedral jump on top of everything else. It's so difficult. Another small backtrack here, but Nathan mastered the skid cancel, which made it really not that bad. And again here. And Nathan clutched the 5 box and then finished the run off with the fence hop. So yeah, those are the circuit records for Beetle Adventure Racing that were set this year. Yeah, that max points run is so hard. But you know, that's not the only hard thing. We've been floating around the idea of a 100% speedrun for this game. It might be the ultimate challenge. You would start off doing Novice Circuit 3 tracks, Advanced Circuit 4 tracks, Professional Circuit 5 tracks, and then Bonus Circuit all tracks. And along the way, you're going to have to collect all 3 flower boxes on every track. And probably with the Alien Beetle and Bonus Circuit, you're going to have to get all 100 points and then win the circuit to unlock the Police Beetle. I think it'd be a pretty epic run, and I think someone should eventually do it. We also have this spreadsheet called All Beetles Time Attack, where you can use these slower vehicles trying to set time attack records. It's kind of interesting, especially the Mount Mayhem Novice Handling 100 points run, which uses a totally different route than normal. Also, Henix has been setting some times in 2-player mode, also with cheats enabled. Might be interesting to see how low these times can go. Just for example, Coventry Cove in 4 minutes and 19 seconds was set. And you know, in a game with such a peculiar physics engine, who really knows what else could be found? I mean, we've seen some pretty rare and obscene things happen. Like, might some of these things eventually be harnessed to get a record that was previously never even considered possible? Who knows? Anyway, this video is getting to be around feature film length, so I'm thinking we need to start wrapping it up, and I'm gonna give some closing thoughts. Beetle Adventure Racing is a really underrated, interesting experience. Is it forever? Is it perfect? No game is perfect. I mean, some of the physics inconsistencies might start driving players mad after too long, so, you know, there's that. But it is a really great game, and I'd also like to give some shoutouts to some people. I'd really like to thank a Math Monkey for helping me with GroovyBot, and also getting it persistently hosted online, which is really great. I'd also like to thank Chaotix and Yume for putting the pressure on. I definitely wouldn't have set the times that I did without other players in competition for the records. And thanks to Vinalker for giving me some of the assets from the game so I can make this video. And thanks to everyone in the Beetle Adventure Racing Discord, and also to everyone who has improved their times this year, and I hope to see some new faces next year and some new records. Anyway, that's pretty much it, so thanks for watching.